What is up, Fanatics? It is 8 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means another episode of Home Theater Fanatics Live. Tonight is episode 156, and as I was thinking about this episode, I said to myself, what can I do, and who can I bring on to make this perfect? And I said, okay, it's got to be Adam. Got to be Adam. And I said, okay, Adam, will you come? He said, yes. And then I was like, oh, it's not perfect yet. I said, okay, I need more. Amiko, will you come on? She said, yes. I said, oh, this is awesome, but it's not perfect yet. And Brian, will you come on? Brian said, no. And I said, what? And he's like, no, I'm messing with you. I'll come on. And I said, okay, finally, there are four of us, the four horsemen of the apocalypse. So we're here to bring destruction to your preconceived notions of what 2022 holds for HiFi home theater and everything AV. So welcome, everyone. Was that an okay introduction?
It'll do.
Love it.
Hey, everybody.
Love it.
All right. So tonight's show is all about, what 2022 holds. And we're going to make some predictions. We're going to prognosticate. I'm going to pretend that I'm the Quizot Hatterack and I can see the future. And if you guys know who the Quizot Hatterack is, extra points. If you don't know who the Quizot Hatterack is, that means that you might not know who Adam, Brian, or Amiko are. So I think to kick things off, introductions are in order. And I'm going to go around the screen in the patented Jiles McCoy Home Theater Fanatics clockwise rotation of my screen. And Adam, you're up first, sir. Who are you and why should people care?
The why should people care part, it's up to them. But who am I? Adam Sommer. I've been doing public relations and marketing for consumer electronics companies for well over 30 years. And I've had my own business now going on 19, focusing on audio companies, everything from manufacturers and OEM companies to back-end technology and anything related to it under the sun. Live it, breathe it, and make a living at it.
Which is awesome. And just so people know, I met Adam, God, what's just been 2 years ago or something, 3 years, something like that. And man, he is awesome. He knows everything about everything. So I'm really excited to have Adam on the show to give us his perspective because, he's in the industry in, I don't want to call it a unique position because there are other people that do the same kind of thing. But I think it's a point of view that the typical consumer doesn't really have, and they don't get to see the world from that point of view. Now, kind of going around the screen and moving toward another point of view, we have Amiko. And so, Amiko, introduce you to everybody and tell people why they should care who you are.
Well, I'll do the first part. The second part is really up to them. So, hi, everybody. And I see a few of you already this is a background because I'm in my house in Vegas right now. This is my house in LA, but this is my house in Vegas that you're seeing. So my name is Amiko, aka That HiFi Girl. I am Senior Vice President of Marketing and Business Development for The Show, Home Entertainment Show. I'm also President of Rose City Media Group. We do content creation, digital marketing, and basically branding for high-end audio companies, as well as documentary production in the hi-fi world, sort of a weird, very micro niche thing. And I am the video editor and host and producer for the Acoustics video series, which brings us over to Mr. Brian Mitchell.
Right on. So moving on around, bang, we're down here to Brian. Brian.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jiles, for having me on your channel for the first time. So
absolutely. So glad to have you.
So much. But yeah, I'm the founder of acoustics.com, started all the way back in 1999. And I think I actually met Adam, or at least connected with him very early on in his career. So we've known each other, communicated, but never been on a live stream together for close to 19 years, probably. So
no, we just met in person in September.
Exactly. Exactly. So we met each other, but like so many people in this industry, you don't actually see faces all the time. You see a lot of emails go back and forth. But yeah, so yeah, real quick, acoustics.com for anyone that doesn't know, cover hi-fi, home theater, headphones, product reviews, over 80 articles per month now, have an amazing team, new editor-in-chief, Ian White, and fantastic Emiko is hosting our new video series, and Mitchapalooza Anderson's doing our podcast. So really a lot going on, and more people to name that will be upset that I didn't name them, but I don't want to go through the entire team, but it's grateful to be here and looking forward to seeing what we're talk about the future of hi-fi tonight.
Right on. Well, welcome to the show, everybody, and everybody out in the audience. I see a bunch of familiar faces here. Double A, My Mail, HiFi, Haven, Chris, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Bunch of people are on that I don't know that haven't introduced themselves. So please do, if you'd like. If you have any questions, we just lost one, and then there were three. She'll be back, I'm sure. So feel free to drop questions that you have in the comment section, and we're happy to prognosticate about those as well. Oh, she's back. Oh, people changed position on my screen now. It's weird. Oh, I feel strange and awkward. But like I was saying, if anybody has questions, throw them out there, and we will chat about those as well. But the first thing that I'm going to throw out there to the panel to talk a little bit about, and Brian and I, we brainstormed a bunch of these the other day. But do you feel that at this point and looking forward, that there is a shift toward more spatial audio in the way that consumers consume or people listen to music? So, if you roll it way back, there was mono, and then there was stereo. And then for video, people came out with different multi-channel kind of systems. There's Dolby and DTS and all that kind of stuff. And that's, always been, partially in just pure music as well. But what do you folks think about that as a future state for music? Do you think more will be produced that way in the future? Is 2-channel kind of the way that things are going to be? I think Adam is just ready to jump on this one. I don't know, but maybe we'll start with you, Adam. What do you think?
Well, I think, with spatial audio, first, I'm a fan because it's something new. It's a demonstrable difference. And I think it has a lot of appeal at the lifestyle level. So maybe not for hardcore audiophiles who can be very nitpicky about it. And I think 2-channel is always going to be the foundation. And no matter what, it will always be there. But, when I tried spatial audio at first, I was kind of leery, but I got it. And do I want to live with it personally? I'm not a huge fan on a personal level, but I think there is something that it offers the market. And I know people who aren't necessarily audiophiles, but love music, who live with their Apple earphones in and notice the difference and like it. And people like my son's friends who are like around 16, 17, they appreciate it. And I think that gives us an opportunity to keep introducing and reintroducing music to newer markets through the types of products that they want to access, not necessarily what the audiophiles want them to hear, at least right at the beginning.
Right. I wonder if it'll be a generational kind of technology, something that maybe catches on with, like you said, the 15, 16-year-old crowd and is carried forward, or if it'll be a splash in the, in the pan. Double A says that he thinks that Dolby Atmos music has a long way to go. He's heard. And I wonder if that's he's heard or he's heard.
You can go either way.
Yeah. What about you, Brian? Any thoughts about this one?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this one quite a bit. So spatial audio, if you roll back the clock 1 year, Apple kind of invented this term right when they came out with lossless music. Because prior to that, there was Dolby Atmos, there was DTS. It was basically relegated to home theater, that it was a surround sound format. But recently, Sony has come out with Sony 360 Reality Audio, which is a competing format to Dolby Atmos. And there's a little bit of a difference between Dolby Atmos for home theater and Dolby Atmos for headphones. And that's really hasn't been talked about, that you can get a surround sound spatial audio experience with headphones only, without actually having to modify any of your equipment.
Interesting.
And they're able to do that. Or I know in the case of Sony 360 Reality Audio, because I got to go to their demo, I got to go to Sony Pictures and like learn how they did it, how they master it, and just get like the 13.1 experience of Sony 360 Reality Audio on regular headphones and an actual speaker system. And when you hear it, it's an amazing difference over 2-channel stereo sound. The question is, can they bring that experience to everyone else? And will people pick up on the difference? And will they find the music? Because you have to be searching for the music. The music on the music side of it, you have to select a spatial audio mix and know that your headphones theoretically have to be spatial audio optimized, but not always. But the main point is, I think people can hear a difference when they first try it. The question is, will enough people try it, and will they care? Like, will they demand music to be delivered that way, or will they just be happy with low quality MP3s like they have been for so many years?
Sure. What about you, Emiko? Anything there to?
Oh, yes.
Oh, here it comes.
Oh, yes.
Unleash.
So the one thing that I didn't get a chance to, but everybody knows this already, right? That I'm a music creator. I'm a composer for film and television.
I don't think my audience knows all the detail.
I'm the one that discovered Gisela, which is Giles's rap alter ego.
Woke up quick at about noon. Jump.
We're producing his first single now. So I've played with a lot of larger names, household names that you all know, that you probably play on your systems. And the thing about spatial audio, coming from a music creator's perspective, is a couple things. First of all, at the moment, and Apple is working on this very, very quickly, but at the moment, not everybody's qualified to have their music released as spatial audio. It has to be recorded and mixed in a certain way in order for it to qualify. Unlike MQA, which like anybody can, I'm not throwing MQA under the bus. I'm just saying that the parameters are different. So number one, at the moment, spatial audio has a very measured start because the number of tracks available are limited. But that being said, I think there's something really important here, which is that as I troll the audiophile post boards late at night, watching what people say when, they're tired and loose lips and brave fingers. And a lot of people say the same thing, which is that they want to hear music that is as close to the original or in the studio version as they can. And the thing with that is so, I think, misunderstood with spatial audio is that when you're actually in the studio, like if you're sitting at the mix desk and you've got everything up and properly balanced, that's the equivalent of original classic spatial audio. So spatial audio may be the closest thing you can get to having the actual studio experience, the way that the mixing engineer and the producers intended for things to sound in terms of placement and soundstage and balance and depth and dimension and color. And so spatial audio, I think, should not be overlooked. And I think that it's a wonderful entry point and conversation piece to get the next generation into HiFi, because this is a way where they can immediately have a very, as close to an authentic experience as possible without actually being in the studio.
Right on. So, I wonder, so for me, when I think spatial audio, since I am, I tilt a little more toward the home theater multi-channel side of the house. I've been living in that world for a long time, at least for the accepted standards of DTS, Dolby, RO3D, that kind of stuff, right? But I wonder at the production level, if you're going to see people who have honed the skill set of mixing cinema tracks, right? Doing cinema mixes, shift that knowledge over into music, right? So when you sit down, you feel like you're right in front of an orchestra, or it's all around you, or however they want to.
They already are.
Yeah. So it would seem like that would be another form of artistic expression that people would need to develop just from a skill set point of view, right? So if you've been a 2-channel mixer forever, and then they're like, well, here are 7 other channels, and you can also do objects that float around in space and go, right? It would seem like they're like, oh, let's figure this out.
Sort of, but the way that we mix is we sit at a desk, and our desks either have 48, 128, 96, whatever number of channels it has. And if it's digital, we can have infinite channels, depending on how we're mixing. And so where we bus things and group things, the issue, Jiles, that you're stating is a good one, but it's actually sort of backwards, because we're the ones sitting at the desk going, please, please, please don't push this into 2 channels. Please, please, please let the space speak for itself. Let the room between breathe so that you can hear everything, right? And so now the front end of it, which is in this case spatial audio or Dolby Surround or DTS, and everybody's finally going, oh, maybe we should stick to what they wanted instead of pushing it through this frosting funnel. So,
I like that frosting funnel idea, because that makes everything very delicious.
It does. It does. It adds a little caloric extraness there for sure.
Can't go wrong with that. I think, if you go back as far as ProLogic 2, which was taking that 2-channel signal and making a credible 5.1 out of it, developed by Jim Fosgate, I think that for me, it opened the door of what was possible with multi-channel music, because like you, Jiles, I have a multi-channel household. If you go into the other room, it's 5.1 and now Dolby Atmos. And again, it comes down to something that makes it a bigger and more realistic experience. It doesn't feel forced if it's mixed, if it's recorded right. And it's also what we're getting used to on the big screen. Just this past weekend, my son and I saw the Beatles rooftop concert in IMAX, remixed by Giles Martin for Dolby Atmos.
Oh, wow.
And there are scenes when, they're talking to people on the street while the Beatles are playing on the rooftop. And it felt right. It felt natural, as opposed to watching it in my living room, just streaming it over Disney, which was great. And I loved it immensely. But this just took it to a whole other level. But I wasn't consciously thinking of it like, oh, that's Dolby Atmos. I was just in it. I was just in the center. I was on the street with the Beatles playing on the rooftop. And that makes the difference. If it's credible, then you're not aware of the technology. And I think that's always the end game.
Right. I think that AA agrees with you in principle, because he says he loves his DTS audio disc, Becksting, et cetera. And, he just hopes that there's great engineering in the future to make sure that the music is treated appropriately. And, just like everything else, I'm sure it could be destroyed. Now, audio system specialists, he queries, what's the better sound, headphones, spatial headphones, or 7.1.4, which would be like a home theater kind of setup. I would guess that it really depends on what your personal listening preferences are. And the flip side of that is, it's not really easy to build a 7.1.4 system. It's a lot easier to go buy a pair of headphones. So I would guess that for the vast majority of people, headphones would be the way that they would be introduced to that type of sound. Because, the percentage of homes that have that kind of theater is minuscule. I mean, we run in the circles all the time of these people, right? So it feels like everybody's got this kind of stuff. But if you take a step back and look, yeah, I mean, this is just a drop in the water of everybody else that's got a sound bar or whatever, right?
Well, and the other thing is, like, 7.1.4 versus headphones, the word better is sort of respectfully, I think is a misnomer, because the word better indicates that they are similar and equivalent, and therefore they offer the same thing, and they don't. If you're listening in 7.1.4, chances are you're watching a movie. I'm not saying you're not listening to music, but chances are you're watching a movie or you're having a cinematic experience, which involves ADR, special effects, all sorts of other things that listening to music doesn't have in the same way. So they're actually vastly different experiences. And so, Giles, I think you're right. It is subjective in that sense.
What I would like to see is a lot more music get Eric Kunzeld. You guys remember Eric Kunzel from the Cincinnati Pops Orchestra from the late 80s and early 90s? He has a library of CDs that he put out way back in the day, and he would add special effects into his CD mixes. And one of his first ones was the 1812 Overture, right? And so he put some rockin' cannons in there, right? And then he did like the music of Star Trek and all these other things, right? And added special effects. And I listened to that, and I was just, that guy, he just blew me away. And we'll talk about this in a little bit, but I'm not a physical media collector for music, but those CDs, I would I've been tempted to go out and find and buy those. I don't know, it's like 20 or 25 or something. Anyway, so let's move on to our next topic, because we're 22 minutes in, and we have like 7 topics, so there's no way that we're going to get to them. Let's jump down to the newest topic that was added, because this might eat up a bunch of time. And so this is really about audio, the audiophile, the HiFi community, looking into the future of 2022. And I'm curious from different perspectives of what you think about how we bring in new people, new consumers, right? If you want to think about it from a sales point of view, how do we interest new folks in these technologies? How do you expand the audiophile community, maybe integrate that in with non-audiophiles to make it more homogenous, as opposed to, kind of over here and this kind of stuff? Or are there just any trends that you see happening from the general AV community as we look forward? And let's start, Brian, with you this time.
Sure. Yeah, I think the trend is the all-in-one speaker, streamer, plug it in, and it works. If you think back 10, 15 years ago now, soundbars did this for home theater. Mm-hmm. So before the soundbar, if you wanted a home theater, you're buying all kinds of speakers and wires and stringing them all across the room, and it's a nightmare. And then the soundbar came in and just said, plug in one wire to your TV and one wire to the wall, and you'll get better sound. Okay. So we don't really have a lot of that in HiFi right now. There's a few companies, I think KEF is one, that kind of makes an all-in-one speaker where everything's built in. You just plug it in and it works.
Right. The LS50 wireless too.
Right. That's one of them.
Yeah.
But there's not that many. And there could be so many more. And that's where I see a lot of potential growth, because it's easier for the consumer. And I think when you can simplify things, give people easier improvements to sound quality without having to know anything about cables, streamers, DACs, whatever. Like, you just get it and, oh, it sounds better. That's where I think the future is headed. But do you guys agree, disagree?
So just to distill that down then. So
yeah,
it sounds like what you're saying is to expand the community, the audiophile or enthusiast community, if you can simplify the technology piece of things so that you don't have to know, okay, I need this DAC and let's argue about some cables and let me get this source and I need to go out and get this streaming thing and then I need these speakers. And you could just say, hey, KEF or whoever, I want this. You could set it up and then have a great experience, which is head and shoulders better than what you might get with technology from the past. That is the way, that the gateway drug, so to speak, to bring people into the community. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
That's partially, yeah. That's my my suggestion. If we can simplify the entry point, we can broaden the base and give more people access without the overwhelming knowledge that they might need to gather to start out. So,
Right. So Adam, let's swing up to you, since you've got a really, I think unique. Wow. Okay. I said the wrong keyword. So what do you think, Adam?
Well, I think that, to Brian's point, a soundbar is what I get asked for by non-audiophile friends or non-enthusiasts, whatever you want to call it, but people who want better sound, but don't want anything like what I have in my living room, because they see that as big, clutter, whatever. All the above is correct. I think very often when we think of audiophile, what we're really thinking of, not just music lovers and audio lovers, but hobbyists, people who are turned on by the gear, things that it's really start to finish. And the music is the biggest part of it, but certainly not the only part. Whereas most of my other friends ask me, like, I just need a sound bar. And there are some great sound bars on the market. In my kitchen, I have a Polk mini sound bar. That's my audio system in the kitchen, hooked up to the Amazon speaker. I don't want to use the trigger word right now.
Don't use that word, because it's already
going to just start going off like trigger. But it's true. And it sounds great. So if I'm cooking dinner or talking, we have better quality in there. We have a wireless subwoofer, not true audiophile quality by any means, but this is what I think most people want, which explains Sonos, for example.
Sure.
Sonos, you know, at least for a while, was towing the line between a nice, not elaborate, but, you know, multi-channel system that was easy to use, that was voice activated, you know, just look at the app, take care of it. And I think we need that at every step of the way if we're going to bring more people into the fold. You know, the audiophiles or budding audiophiles will find it, you know, if somebody's a real gearhead per se. But I always think that we just need to make better sound more accessible now that brick and mortar is not gone away, but, you know, it's certainly diminished over the years. And I, like many people, will buy products online because I know what I'm, you know, I always said I know what I'm doing, but that's always a bad thing to say. I like to think I know what I'm doing. But, you know, for the most part, you know, when I was 17, I would take my copy of Steely Dan Asia and show up at the local HiFi store in Fresh Meadows, Queens, and the guy would play it for me, even though he knew that the 17-year-old could not afford that system. It was still just demonstrating the difference. And when I went home and put on that same record, it was night and day. You know, so I think the more you expose people to it, the more you'll find the segment that appreciates the difference that a higher end system will make, but you still have to focus on the lifestyle products to just bring everybody in because it's all about listening to music.
Now, do you see or have heard of any new lifestyle products coming out? Do you see that as a trend? So, you know, is there scuttlebutt of, you know, this is where we're targeting. We really want this lifestyle. We want, you know, the product that's better than what people have had. It might not be the best, but it helps them move toward that. So is that talk in the industry?
Oh, sure. You know, and I think you're going to find it more with the, you know, the brand names like Amazon and Google. Their products are going to keep getting better and better because they're buying from manufacturers and designers who know what they're doing and they understand the difference. But in the market, that's what people want. You know, if you're talking about a lifestyle product and not something that's niche or a novelty or something like vinyl, which has special appeal for some of us, then people want something that's simple to use, and nothing is simpler than voice activation. You know, and I'm there. You know, I appreciate it, and I notice it when it's gone.
I hear you. So, Emeka, what do you think when you look at 2022 and the audiophile community? What do you think is going to be the big thing for this year? What's coming that's going to just blow things up?
Oh, Jiles.
Oh,
Jiles.
I'm throwing the ball up. Come on.
You already know what I'm going to. So we haven't quite talked about this yet, but I want to add to what Brian and Adam are saying in terms of, like, I think having the proper entry point is key, without a doubt. And as much as sound bars make me go, no, but I would rather have somebody who's listening to crappy audio and having a terrible listening experience elevate to the best that they can. And if that's a sound bar, or if that's a Bluetooth speaker, whatever it is, bringing them forward on their journey, then I certainly celebrate that. But, you know, the thing that I'm really into building on that is what happens at step 2, 3, 4, and beyond. And that's where dun, 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 enter the show.
The show.
And so this is where I cannot speak for, and I will not speak for other audio shows. I will simply speak for our show. This is where our program rollout of things like the group, which is a curated membership-only lifestyle program ecosystem, or the fact that we've expanded to Denver and New Orleans, and there's talk of Nashville on the horizon, and each show that we have being different. So like the Long Beach show is classic 2-channel stuff, vintage audio, high end. Denver's going to be all about integrated technology, personal audio, home theater, family audio, things that are more cooperative. And then on the East Coast, we're going to have more that's based on live music and music production and getting back to authentically what sounds like it is in the studio. So having experiences where people can come and congregate and not feel like they're a fish out of water, but really feel like there are multiple entry points, whether you're an expert and a millionaire or you have $100 in your pocket and you're some kid that rolled off the street that's just like, hey man, I want to check it out because I dig music, whatever, cool. All are welcome. And for us, it's been a tremendous front end lift. And I know you're aware of this and Brian's certainly aware of this, that involves changing the culture of how audio and home theater is marketed to all people. And that's really the conversation that's happening internally, where we're taking a lot from what we're listening to the community talk about and what they want. And for us, that's going to be steps 3, 4, 5, 6, and beyond in terms of the future.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, come to New York. We can use that show in New York.
Hey, man, we have had that request multiple times, more than I would care to admit. And you and I can speak after this. Wink, wink.
Happily. But I will tell you, one of the best examples of market outreach, of bringing a better sound experience to a wider audience, several years ago, Sennheiser brought their headphones to a massive pop-up shop in New York City at the Oculus, which is a big, I guess, shopping mall and transportation hub at the site of the World Trade Center. Thousands of people go through there every day. And there was a massive pop-up area where you could go try on headphones, check them out. You could buy on site, you could have them shipped, or just hang out, try headphones for an hour.
Right.
But it was ideal because a lot of people I know said that they were checking things out and then asking me about it afterward. And then asking me if I could get them a deal on Sennheiser, which the answer was no. I could get me a deal on it, but that's where it ends. But it was, I thought it was great, because they just brought it out to the people for, I think it was about 6 months. Don't hold me to it if a Sennheiser person is watching, but it made an impression. And I think we need more of that as an industry, where you could have a couple players show up in an environment like the Oculus or a college campus or a park, something that we arrange as an industry and have a few players involved and just make it easy, casual, fun, and accessible, non-threatening.
Sure. So, from my point of view, and it's going to touch on all these things a bit, as I look at 2022 and I think about the community and how people can enter the community, personally, I'm very happy that we're going to have shows back again. And, we had the home entertainment show last year, but that was one of the very few ones that was able to make it off the ground. But, this year there'll be more. And I'm excited to see the shows become less pure, meaning that they cover more ground. And I think when you cover more ground, they become a little more inclusive to people that might have a different point of view or be into different things, right? And that just grows everything as a group. So I'm really excited about the Denver show, right? Because that's right down my alley, and it's literally right down my alley. It'll be over there, which is awesome. So I'm excited for that. And if something does happen in New York with you guys, I definitely want to come to that show, because I've never spent a lot of time in New York. The last time I was there was 7th grade in high school. I've not experienced here. I've not experienced New York.
Just come.
I know. I've been all West Coast in the South and now Central, so I got to spend some time out there. But anyway, speaking of time, it's time for us to shamefully plug ourselves, or shamelessly if you want to, because sometimes I feel bad about it. But this is when we get what? So plugs, Home Theater Fanatics. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that button, subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, open up YouTube, go to Home Theater Fanatics and subscribe. Adam, your turn to shamelessly plug.
Well, what can I say? Like I said, I've been doing public relations and marketing for audio companies, for many years now. I love it. I live it. I would just say, to anybody who's watching is kind of curious, go out and just sample. If there's brick and mortar in your area, support them. Show up, just check out their environment, because it is a different shopping experience than you'll find online. And not to insult anybody who makes their living this way, but you got to get out there and get in front of it, which is why I want to see shows like, I want to see the show come to New York. I want to see more of these events, because it's good for my clients and it's good for us just to talk to people. This weekend in New York will be Can Jam. It's the largest can jam of the year, at least in North America. And we're glad it's back. It's the first one since a month before the pandemic really hit. So it's going to be a big turnout. And I'm really excited because you get to see people who are really interested in these products. And, you know, these sessions online are great. But as we saw early in the pandemic, it's just not the same for getting out there and hearing things live and in person.
Agreed. And if anybody that's watching has a HiFi brand that they just want to blow up and turn into a huge multi-billion-dollar organization, talk to Adam. He'll put you on the right path. He's your guy. All right, Brian, plug yourself.
All right. Well, of course, everybody should go to acoustics.com, subscribe to the newsletter.
Yep.
So go onto YouTube, subscribe on YouTube, look for us on wherever you listen to podcasts, and listen to the Acoustics podcast and subscribe. But yeah, we just want to welcome you into the community. We want you to connect with us, chat wherever you can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. And yeah, so we're just trying to welcome you in and connect with us wherever you find us. So thank you so much.
Awesome.
Jiles.
And Emiko, your shameless or shameful plug, whichever you prefer.
Always shameless. Well, first I'll plug the show, thehomeentertainmentshow.com, but don't go to the website because we're still updating it. So get on social media instead. Get on social media at The Home Entertainment Show. And because we're active on social every day. There's so much going on. Or head on over to the group. That site has launched now, thegroup.life. Go join the group. Then you can be part of these pop-up type of experiences. We've got cool race car driving experiences, winery stuff, yacht stuff, all sorts of neat stuff, all that incorporates music and home theater. So go check that out. If you want to follow me personally, my HiFi personality is that HiFi girl. And if you follow my music side, then it's Emiko Music, or just follow all of it. And then you'll never be out of the loop. Plus you can see me on Acoustics as one of the original 80 pieces of content that acoustics.com produces every month, right, Brian Mitchell?
That's right.
Ooh, this is getting real shameless. This is
Thank
getting
you,
real
Emiko.
shameless. Okay, I did not realize that the group.life website had launched. I totally
Dude,
didn't
you
realize
got
that.
the mailing.
You're
on the list. Shame.
I know. Ring the bell. Shame.
I'm gonna put you in the collar of shame.
So everybody out there, don't feel the same shame that I feel. Go to the website.
Yes.
This is not the feeling that you want to feel. You don't want all the HiFi people to be like, hey, you didn't know about it.
Especially because Jiles is our show ambassador.
Oh, well, the show.
The bus just rolled right over you there.
I'm not a group ambassador.
Yeah, you are. We run it as part of the show.
I am.
Of
I'm
course
the
you
best
are.
ambassador. All right.
Of course you are.
So everybody go check all this stuff out. But we're putting this bus back on the road and on the rails because buses run on rails, and we're going down the tracks to the waterway where we're going to swim. And we're going to swim right
in Denver.
We got everything here.
That what happens in Colorado.
Man, what happens in Colorado stays in Colorado. Okay.
Except on that bus.
Doesn't have the same ring to it. Yeah.
I'm gonna pull the pin out and I'm gonna throw the grenade, right? Because this next topic is sure to get people up in arms. Man, I'm getting good at this. Let's talk about physical versus streaming versus files, right? In 2022, and how you anticipate people will shift over time this year, or what the focus will be for consuming content. And it's your turn, Emiko. You get to go first. So what are your predictions for 2022?
My predictions are, I think, fairly well known by now. Obviously, streaming is not going anywhere, much to my chagrin, as it were. No. Seriously, streaming is great. Lots of great stuff going on in the streaming world. Everybody knows me. I am a big champion of not just physical media, but purchasing and ownership. Because what that does is it helps the music creators. And a few weeks ago, Brian and I were on, am I allowed to say together? Audioholics with Gene Delasala. And a lot of people were writing.
I talked about this in my last video because he likes tight shirts. And I think this might also bring more people to my channel. So let me get there.
Okay. Well done, John. You're turning more pink now.
I know, it's
so
just kind of choking me a little
it's
bit.
really
Somebody hurt
stunning
that man.
here. So we were talking about how a lot of people in the comment section didn't realize how little artists get paid through streaming. And so I think the conversation, which was meant to be one thing, took this hard right turn and was like, no, we have to support artists. But that's a really, really important thing, because if we don't support the music creators, other than Jiles, who watches home theater movies and stuff on his system, what is everybody listening to on their 2-channel systems? Like the news, white noise, test tones? Like, what's it going to be? And that's a very serious thing, because there's only a certain number of people that make a livable wage off of music streaming. So my prediction, also because vinyl outsold CDs for the first time in 30 years. 30 years, yeah. I think it is, right? Yeah. That's a big deal, regardless of how small of a drop in the bucket it seems comparative to streaming, because it means that the signal has been sent. The bat signal's out there. The world is taking notice, not just that vinyl is back. I never thought it went away, but it's that younger people, when you look at what vinyl was selling, younger people are turning to the vinyl lifestyle. And that is something really important, because it signifies a shift in the dialogue and the conversation between the community and the industry. And that's really cool. And I'm sorry, Jiles, because I know you don't like physical media. But
well, I don't dislike physical media. I just think it's inconvenient, and it holds me back in my ability to find new and different things. Because I when I want to listen to something, I don't want to have to go and be like, do you have the record from 1917 that's got the special edition? I just want to be like, play.
Right,
yeah,
but people can use can use it. Right.
If all the records have been destroyed, yeah, that would suck.
No, I mean, but streaming. I mean, because they lose, licenses, change hands all the time. So I have playlists on. Well, I go with Spotify. No eggs, but that's one of the services I use.
Cancel.
And I do stream. Like everybody, of course. Behind me you can see just a little bit of the collection. And vinyl is my first audio love and always will be. But when I look at some of my old playlists, there'll be titles that are grayed out, or even worse, re-recorded.
Right.
And it's terrible. So if I have that album, if I have the vinyl, if I have a CD, I have it. I can rip it. I have digital files of pretty much every CD I ever bought. But I like that ownership, because it's probably not going away. My copy of it, if I really care about it, there's a personal connection, whereas streaming, it's ethereal, it comes and goes.
Sure. And, I totally understand and agree with that point of view. I just apply it differently in my life. If you look behind me, you'll see that I've got hundreds and hundreds of books. So that's where I get my physical media fix at. So Brian, what do you think about all this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, this is a topic we've covered on a lot of podcasts, and it's really interesting that when you stream music, strangely, it becomes devalued, and it becomes meaningless in a way, because it's so available. And just like you said, you can say whatever you want, you can play it, it's always there. So you just kind of take it for granted, and you don't take into account all the stuff that McCoy was saying, like how's the artist getting paid, how are you supporting the industry. And when you buy physical media, CDs, records, more money goes into the artist's pocket. And that's something MCO's talked a lot about and how important that is. So the question is, can the industry support itself on $10 a month monthly payments? Like, will enough people subscribe to make those royalty numbers go up to the point where artists can get paid a fair wage, whatever, however that's calculated? But can it sustain itself is maybe the better question. As we are seeing more people, like everyone else said, more people are turning to physical media in terms of vinyl right now, which is really interesting, because it's like the exact opposite of streaming. It's so much harder, so much more involved, but but all of that effort makes it more meaningful and a more personal connection to the music. So that's really what it comes down to. Are we going to be connected to music, or is it just going to be background music?
Right
Well,
on. So go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say also, I mean, for whatever it's worth, and this is I know there are some people in the audio community that would want to pelt me with spikes and rusty tacks for saying this, but I don't care. I'm gonna say it anyway because this is the truth. Like, this is economically the truth. If you spend, let's say your minimum average spend on speakers is anywhere from $500 to $1,200, right? That's a very low entry point. Cool. And you're telling me that you don't therefore have 99 cents to download one song? You're telling me that all of your money went into the gear that plays the music that the artist made that makes your gear usable, and you want it for free? There's a bigger conversation that needs to be had at that point. And that conversation is really the folks that are responsible for it are not just the record companies and the streaming companies and the artists, but the audio industry. We are responsible for encouraging our community to see things differently. We can change the culture positively. Because Giles, like you said with your books, right? My dad's an author. And when people buy and they download stuff on the Kindle, he gets paid pretty much what I get paid on streaming. It's horrible. But when he sells physical books, goes in for book signings, right? Pre-COVID, like book signings and talks and things like that. There's so much more of a deeper connection there. When you can have the tactile experience, it's a wonderful thing. And so shows like this are really important because this is an opportunity to really bring that out and push this conversation to the front burner. Okay, I'm done.
Right on. So here's I think a topical comment or topic of discussion that is related to what we're talking about now too. So if you haven't heard about this, which I'm sure you have heard about this, the new stem player from Kanye West, right?
Yes.
Young Yeezy, he's changed his name so many times. But if you want his album, you have to buy his player for $200. And he's like, this is mine, and I'm making the music, and he's already made millions off this just in pre-sales of the unit. Is there a future for anyone other than A-lister artist to be able to do this kind of thing, right? So if I sat down and released an album and said, hey, if you want my album, you got to go buy this $200 G-Zilla player, I'd make 18 cents.
Well, I'd buy it just on the basis that we're calling it the G-Zilla player, and yes, I said we.
Yeah.
Giles, the fact of I'm just going to jump in here, even though it's not my turn. I'm going to say yes, because the show is working on that very thing as part of the group, and you're going to see it in Q3 roll out, and people are going to freak out because we've had the conversation already with Richard Vandersteen and Bill Duddleston from Legacy, and they're all in on this. And our hope is that it really is going to change how people start to not just value music, but how people look for music and also look for hi-fi simultaneously. That's all I'm going to say about that. So the answer is yes, there is a future for it.
Right. What do you think, Adam?
Well, I do agree there is a future for it. I think it still has to take shape, using Kanye West as the example. A diehard fan might say, okay, sure, rationalize the $200. I'm going to get the player. I have the music. Wonderful. But do I have to do that for every A-lister that I'm buying who buys into this? I think they really need to find that common ground, so I, as a consumer, don't have to think about it. I think, ultimately, whether it's streaming or physical media, the idea is that once I'm set up, I don't really have to give it a lot of thought unless I like it, unless I'm involved in the industry or just turned on by the gear. But otherwise, it's almost like we're putting up another obligation on the part of the consumer, which again is fine as long as we don't push it too far. And I thought it was an interesting experiment, and I'm very interested in seeing where it's going. So personally, yes, I think there's a future in it, but it is still in the larval stage.
Right. Brian, any additional comments on that?
I may be the odd one out on this one. I don't even know exactly what this stem player is. I have heard about it, but I don't know. Can you fill me in on exactly what it's supposed to do?
It's like, just imagine that you had to buy an iPod loaded with an album to get access to the album. It's basically what it is. So it's his version of the iPod. And if you want to listen to his music, you have to pay $200 and have a special piece of hardware to listen to it.
So it's like a copy protected.
I don't know the
digital
specifics.
drive, something like that.
I'm sure someone will get these files off of it and they'll be all over the place, right? But if you want to be legit, right, too legit to quit, you have to buy his player to listen to his music and get through his paywall.
Okay.
So, which is, it's his company, his music, his money.
Right.
And he's not, he's outside.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's great for Kanye West. If you get to that level, you can do that. Like 99.99% of people can't do that. And I don't even know if it's necessarily good for the industry as a whole to have things like that are really not sustainable. Like it's a one-off thing. Maybe it'll be a collectible. People will talk about that they have this thing, but I don't see it as a trend that a lot of artists are going to do this. Maybe I'm missing something, but that's how I kind of see it right now.
Well, his whole reason for doing not his whole reason, but one of his reasons for doing it is to make a statement. And whether you love Kanye or you don't, the fact of the matter is that economically speaking, he is a very successful and savvy business person, albeit sometimes with questionable choices. Okay. But this particular instance is really, I think, an important point not to be missed, because what he's saying is, I deserve more than 0.00013 cents for the first 29 seconds that you're streaming my song. I'm going to tell you what my value is as an artist, because I worked really hard to get here and I put the hours in and I deserve to be paid a fair amount of money. That's what he's saying. And so what would make this sustainable is not that every A-list artist or B-list artist goes around and has their own player. It's that somebody or a group of us get together and change the rate of pay, because then you don't have to have a Kanye West going out there with this stem player. Then you can just have, oh, look, Spotify went from paying 0.00013 cents to they're now paying 11 cents a stream, right? Which is a lot more money. And so that's the conversation piece that he's trying to drive home.
You need the labels to do that, and that's going to be hard to have the Sonys and Universals of the world get behind that, because the labels do just fine with streaming. It's the artists that get kind of punched in the end, unless it's an independent. Like I'm a big fan of They Might Be Giants, based here in New York. Yeah. They own their own music. Right. They are huge fans of Spotify, which you don't really hear among the artist community very much, because they get a much bigger cut. They get, they walk away with a much larger paycheck at the end of the year. It's a bit of an anomaly, but if the bigger names would get behind it, and Kanye West and all the others at that level would say, okay, enough's enough. If this is the future, there has to be another system. There has to be another scale. Then we'd see real changes. And it would also mean, I think, as subscribers, we'd be paying a little more, because right now we get off cheap. I massively. Have Spotify and Qobuz. So Qobuz, I think, is wonderful. I think, the sound is the best out there of the streaming services. I'm a big fan. And then there's Spotify with the family plan and podcasts and everything else. So those, that's my Coke and Pepsi for streaming right now. But with Spotify, it has a well-deserved dirty reputation in that, it doesn't pay very well, but the labels have to get behind that effort as well, the larger labels.
They do, but the larger labels, the issue that's being had is the labels have deals with the streaming companies, which allow them to get preferential rates depending on who the artists are, what kind of deals they have, who their publishers are, and also what type of advertising they're taking out for the freebie plans. And so the bigger issue is the pot of money because the label uses all the money they get, right? They pump that right back into probably golf games and steak and A&R directors and all of my buddies that work at you know where. But the streaming companies have a pocket full of money that they make that they can actually pay to the artists directly. And they should be paying to the artist directly, because they're not, what the artist is getting, yes, is partially from the labels, but there are a lot more independents that are getting horrible, horrible, horrible deals because the streaming services won't step up. And so I think if there's sort of a come to Jesus roundtable discussion about it.
Come to Yeezy.
Yeah, okay, where everything is $200 except sneakers, which are then $1,000. Right. Then there's a chance for real change. But I think that the consumer does have a responsibility in that, because if you want your favorite artist to keep creating, you have to stand up and make your voice heard also. That's empowering. That's not burdensome. That's actually, I think, more motivating.
Right on. I think I'm gonna close this topic out because we're almost at time, with a purely consumer point of view, right? So for me, if the only way I can hear Kanye West's album is via this player, it means I will never hear his music. And if Ariana Grande, well, I'd buy hers maybe. If somebody else released one, she's awesome. She's the best. But my point is that for me, it turns into a non-starter. I am not paying $200 to listen to an album. It's just not going to happen. And I can't think of anything that I would pay $200 for to experience, from a musical or a video or a movie or anything. It's, for me, it's just, it removes that from my lexicon of language that I speak, of things that I get to experience. So that's where I think the danger lies, right? You're putting yourself in a position where you're going to alienate a certain portion of a vast portion of the market. So is that good or bad? I don't know. He's made a ton of money. So, obviously there is a market out there, but, people like me, or they just like, it's not something that I would ever even consider purchasing. So that, I guess I'll be the contrarian on this particular topic. Okay. With all of that said, we are at 8:59 Mountain Time, and we have gotten through just a very small portion of the things that we had set aside for conversation today. So I think that means that we're going to have to schedule another one of these down the road so we can pick up and continue the conversation. So first off, I would like to thank everyone here. So first, to the roundtable, Adam, Brian, Emiko, thank you so much for coming on. Time is valuable. So I thank you for spending your time with me and with the audience. And then to the audience, your time is valuable as well. Hopefully we've been entertaining and enlightening, and influential and inspiring to you to go out and listen to music and watch video and come to shows and, join together and create a better community for everyone. So everybody, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you, Jiles.
see some of you at Expona.
Absolutely. I'll be there with
I'll be
bells
there.
on. Literally, I'm going to wear some bells.
I'll listen for you down the hall.
Right on. You'll hear me coming. Ding, ding.
Ding,
All right,
ding.
everybody. As a closer, make sure you check out everybody's channels. I usually go over my videos. We're out of time for that today, but I am filming a new home theater PC build video now that I think everybody will like. And with that, take care, everybody. See you guys in the next one.